Thank y'all for coming out tonight. I was here last year, Sherry and I. I'm so thrilled to come back and be a part of this great event. I got to be downtown talking a little bit to the Tea Party crowd that was at Municipal Auditorium earlier, and unfortunately I've got to dash off to Hendersonville here in a few moments. They're doing a rally on these tax days. There's something going on just about everywhere, so we try to hit as many of them as we can. But I was talking earlier today that what really sets this country apart, what really sets us apart from other nations and those that don't understand our history, is that folks will come out in a small community like this because politics and policy matters. Now, I'm a guy that, I was an athlete when I was in college, and I like to compete, and I like to win, and that's a lot of what politics is all about sometimes. People like yard signs, and they like the politics and the game of politics. But I think what people are realizing, the reason you're seeing big turnout at Tea Party rallies like this and others, is that politics is not just a game. It's not just about winning and losing and having your team a little bit bigger on the scoreboard than the other guy. Because at the end of the day, it's really about policy. Because who wins matters. And we've learned that in the White House in the last 14 months more than we could have ever possibly imagined. It's not just our team versus their team. It's when you get in, elections have consequences. And we can look at the economy, we can look at the Supreme Court justice that's already been appointed by this president, and another one to come, and maybe another one after that. Elections have consequences. They have consequences at the national level. They have consequences when we're looking at state house, state senate, governor's races. I know Ron Ramsey's here in congressional races. All these races matter. Because as conservatives, we keep saying the closest to the people is where this stuff ought to matter. We shouldn't be making decisions in Washington. We need to push it to the people. Well, that means we've got to elect good people to our city council, to our county commissions, to our mayor's offices and everything else, because this is where it all starts, and that's how it's always been. Newt Gingrich is a guy who loves history, and he tells the story that one of the things that sets America apart is that we're people that really believe in our heart and soul in independence and liberty and freedom, because that's in our DNA. And when you think about who we are and where we came to be as a nation, we had folks that started a revolution 200 plus years ago because they didn't want a king telling them what to do. And they got here because they left places with kings and rulers, because they were saying, if you guys got a king and rules, I'm out of here. I'm going to America where I can have more freedom to make my decisions, and sometimes make mistakes, and sometimes fail. But I'm going to have the opportunity to succeed or fail like I'm not going to have anywhere else in the world. So the people that came here that started this great adventure of America came with that attitude. And then over the next 200 and something years, we haven't lost that. It's that westward spirit that caused people to move here to Tennessee from North Carolina and say, I noticed a little smoke coming up over the ridge. Somebody's built a cabin over there. Next thing you know, there's going to be a town, they're going to elect a mayor, and they're going to have rules. I'm moving west. And our people just kept moving west to get away from rules and people telling them what to do until we filled this whole country. That's who we are. That's our spirit of, I don't want you to tell me what to do. I don't want to tell you what to do. I want government out of my way, off my back, and out of my pocket, and that's what conservatives are linked together and believe in. And that is who America is. Now, we've got an administration right now in the White House that doesn't get that, doesn't understand who we are. There's not a cultural connection. These people don't see any difference in us or Cuba. And if they do, they think Cuba's the one that's got it right. Last time I checked, there's not a lot of people in Miami getting in little rubber rafts trying to make their way to Cuba to take advantage of their healthcare system. But there are a lot of people swimming through shark-infested waters trying to come this way. There's an advantage to our system that this president doesn't understand, doesn't get, and frankly doesn't like. I don't know if you saw the latest embarrassment of Barack Obama, and no, as I said earlier today, he didn't bow to some other ruler or even to the mayor of Tampa. He did say, though, yesterday that he is recognizing that we are still an international superpower, whether we like it or not. Now, he may not like it very much. His cronies don't like it very much. The people he's put into high office in our national security and our transportation safety administration, homeland security, and everywhere else, they may not like the fact that we're a superpower. But I think those men and women who've represented us in uniform for 200 plus years, I think the men and women who sleep safe in this country because of those men and women in uniform protecting us, kind of like the fact that we're the biggest, baddest guy on the block. For now. And just because our president doesn't get it doesn't mean we don't need to understand it. This nation is the greatest nation on the world, not because of who we have in the White House, but because of who lives here. And we're the only country in the world, no matter where you come from, you can come here and the opportunities are boundless. We've got people in this audience who are first or second generations in this country, who in just one generation have seen themselves be able to come here with nothing and end up at the highest education level, at the highest wealth level, at the highest freedom level of anywhere in the world. You cannot do that anywhere else in the world. We're the last best hope. We're the only place where that remains true. And God help the world if we lose that capacity. One of the things I want to end with, because I've got to run again to Hendersonville, you've got a lot of great speakers here. This country was not founded by people who were weak-kneed, feckless, and spineless. They were courageous men and women who were willing to risk everything for liberty and freedom and independence. They didn't just think those words sounded good. They didn't do a poll and say, hey, that's polling pretty good. You know, independence, it sounds good. If we use that word a lot, we'll win an election. They actually read the Declaration of Independence, unlike our Congress. They signed their name to it knowing that they may have been signing a death warrant for themselves. When they talked about giving up their lives and their freedom, there were guys in red jackets just a little bit up the street happy to oblige them. It meant something. And I guarantee you they read every paragraph, every word, every nuance before they signed that bill. There wasn't any of this, we'll fill it in later. Somebody will explain it to me later. We'll just sign this Declaration of Independence and then we'll figure out what's in it. It was serious business, and it's still serious business today. The people that founded this nation, the successes we've had in business, in politics, as a country for generations has always been done by people willing to step up and risk everything for a belief, for an ideal. That hadn't changed over 200 years. And every generation that's come along has had to step up and take their turn in the risk point to make sure that that continues in the history to come. You know, it was no done deal when our founders started this country. There were guys in bandages wrapped around their feet in the snow battling the most fierce fighting force in the world at Valley Forge. They were outnumbered, outgunned, outmanned every step of the way. But they didn't back down, they didn't whine about it, and they didn't quit. And every generation has been handed that same opportunity. Not a guarantee that freedom in America would continue, but the opportunity to ensure that America and freedom and liberty and independence continue for our kids and their kids. Every generation has had their time to step up. This is our time. This is our time to do our duty. Thomas Paine, one of the founders, said, those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. Those guys at Valley Forge endured a lot of fatigue. Those folks at Antietam, at Stone Mountain, and all the other battles in American history endured a lot of fatigue. Those guys who are here, who were in Vietnam, who served us in Iraq and Afghanistan, they have endured a lot of fatigue so that we enjoy the blessings of freedom. It's time for us to put a little bit more effort, a little bit more fatigue into earning what they've given us and earning the opportunity for our kids to go on. Every generation in this country's history, every generation in this country's history has had the choice to sit on the sidelines and do nothing, to be what I call the somebody oughta crowd. You know, somebody ought to sign up for the military and protect us. You know, somebody ought to write a letter to the editor. Somebody ought to run for office. Somebody ought to write a check to a candidate. Somebody ought to go to a Tea Party rally. This world is built up with the somebody ought to crowd. But what makes a difference for freedom and liberty and success in every opportunity in life are the people that don't just say somebody oughta. They're the ones that step forward and say, I'm gonna. I'm gonna sign up. I'm gonna step up. I'm gonna speak out. I'm gonna do something about it. And then they put their action behind their words. You all are all I'm gonna people, or you wouldn't be here. But we need to have more I'm gonna people in this country than ever before, because we've got plenty of somebody oughtas. And somebody oughtas didn't get America started, didn't make America the greatest nation on earth. And the somebody oughtas aren't gonna pass this to our kids and grandkids. I applaud you, I pray for you, and I thank you for being people who say, I'm gonna, and then stepping up and doing it. God bless you, and God bless everyone.